Georgia lawyers Bob and Irreverent D talk law. Listen up for stories about how things really happen in our legal system. Who are these guys? Dwayne Singleton, Irreverent D, is a criminal defense attorney in the state of Georgia. Benjamin O. Benson, aka Bob, is a personal injury attorney in Atlanta. Today, the boys get
controversial
because Irreverent D gets an idea.
What we should do is use the training facility land to grow cannabis.
Yeah.
This is stupid.
Yeah.
And they do their best impression of
Denny Crane.
Denny Crane.
Man.
I loved it.
Now, sit back and take a listen as Bob and Irreverent D talk law.
So welcome to the Bob and Irreverent D Talk Law podcast.
With the amazing Bob.
Yes, and the amazing Irreverent D and the amazing not to be disclosed KF. We're going to talk about
We're going to blur his face out.
We're going to talk about KF, the insider in the Atlanta Police Training Center case. He's got his thumb on the pulse of what's happening, and so we invited him to come on the show and talk about it because it really is a fascinating story, and there's a lot of stuff going on. So we're going to be covering that news item today. This just in, we're covering, don't say Cop City.
It's the training facility.
It's the training facility.
It's the Atlanta Police and Fire Training Facility.
That's right. That's right.
Yes.
Listen, this episode is brought to you by Irreverent D, the famous Dwayne Singleton criminal defense attorney. Not a criminal defense attorney.
Infamous.
I think that means you're
Famous?
infamous, right?
Okay, yes.
Yeah, from
Yeah.
the old thing. Yeah.
And don't forget the Bob Law Firm here in Atlanta, one of the best places you can go. If you've been injured in an automobile accident or a tractor trailer wreck, he's your man. He'll get you the most recovery available.
Thank you, Dwayne.
You're
that was
welcome.
awfully flattering.
Well, you do a great job for your clients.
I do. Every single day.
And you're very accessible, which I'm not. So
You
I
know,
always appreciate that.
What we decided to do recently
Right.
was at the bottom of my email, there's a link.
I saw that. You
Did
can
you see that?
set a little.
You can schedule your own phone appointment to talk to me and put your email address in and your phone number. I will call you at that time. Every client can do it. Every person can do it. Boom, boom, boom. I've got, in fact, talk day scheduled with conference calls from like 3 o'clock to 6 o'clock straight, just like that. My poor kids, when I get home, they say, "Dad, was it talk day today?" And then they just know, yeah, I was talking all day.
It's on the phone, so just be quiet.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You know, I was in church this weekend, and the pastor was talking about how Paul the apostle had been stoned, and then he had to like clarify what I mean is he was like pelted with rocks.
People in the back were like, "Cool, that's awesome."
No wonder he had vision.
Two people were like, "Got it." So let's talk about the news.
Let's do it.
And now, the news.
What do you got over there?
We've got the Fulton Daily. 20 states asked Fourth Circuit to kill Jones Day. Texas asked boring. Georgia Pacific case. Troutman Peppers gains cannabis industry lawyer. And
Interesting.
with 100 clients. That might be interesting to talk about.
Maybe we would talk about that next one.
Appellate courts rule attorney fees can be blah, blah, blah. And a RICO.
That sounds boring.
We'll throw that away.
Let's talk
you got?
about, you know what we're going to talk about? This one, about the Atlanta Police Training Facility.
Back to
Now, I was corrected from the last time we covered this. You remember we covered this back during the holidays.
right.
When there was all of these protests happening, and we had Doug on the show, and we were talking about all of the violence that was happening. And of course,
The campers and
we
people
were
getting
uninitiated,
killed
and so we were calling it Cop City this whole time, and didn't realize it's not
That's
called
very
Cop City.
derogatory. We didn't know that.
I didn't know that.
But we live and we learn.
I am properly chastised. It is the Police Training Center. And
more
we're joined today-
politically correct
Yes.
today.
We are joined today by insider KF, who has his finger on the pulse of what's going on, because he is an elected member of one of the communities there to give voice to the community members, to the city council members, so that they can make appropriate decisions about what is going on.
So we're going to find out the inside scoop.
Before we go there, Can we ask you a couple questions just to go back? Can we do like the Steve?
Only
Can we do the
anonymously.
Wayne's World? Blah, 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 like to go back to the one we were talking about, Stop Cop City. I mean, Stop the Police Training Center thing back from episode.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
We never do that.
We would never do that. Okay. They were living in tents, living in tree houses, just kind of living generally in this forest for reasons we'll discuss later.
So like Robin Hood, Sherwood Forest.
It was Sherwood Forest,
Oh,
exactly.
okay.
These people are all the Robin Hood and the merry men.
Thread.
Merry people. So, at any rate, we were talking about those protests, right, and how there were like somebody had been killed, and a trooper had been shot at, and then there was all kinds of stuff, right, and we were scratching our heads, asking ourselves, how was it that the police like had authority to go in there and like try to like push everybody out in the first place? Do you have any do you know what happened there?
Well, first off, I wasn't there.
Okay.
But yes, I do have a little information, and I tried to stay to the facts, so I'm not going to try to add any opinion. As far as the thing about the...
You're the only person here that does that, but okay.
Well, thank you. I'm sure it'll change by the end. But the thing that's the most disturbing about that whole thing is there were 3 agencies that were sent in to clear, right?
Right. There was
There's
DeKalb, APD,
correct,
and the troopers.
correct.
Okay.
The troopers were sent in to the main part. Now, what is the one thing that the troopers don't have that APD and DeKalb has?
Body cams.
Thank you.
Oh, wow.
So
You really put me on the spot there. Okay, got it.
well, hey, I just keep you on your toes.
Okay.
So to me, there's a little bit of a disturbing aspect of that as to why would you send the only agency into the most populated area that does not require them to wear body cam footage? That is an issue to me.
Right.
The other part is it is Atlanta's land, and yes, it's almost like a park. It is a park. Technically, it was. And yes, you do have to be out by dusk. So do they have the right to go in according to ordinances? You can't be in Piedmont Park camping out at 11 o'clock, right?
So if it's Atlanta's land, why is DeKalb County there? What is that? What's their
Can we
thing?
talk
in
about
this?
that?
That's a great question.
Because-
The land is owned by Atlanta. The land is surrounded by unincorporated DeKalb. It is not officially in the city limits.
So it is property belonging to the city of Atlanta.
Correct.
They got the deed,
Mhm.
but it sits in DeKalb County.
Correct.
How is that even Oh,
Wow.
wait. Yeah, that's possible.
Yeah, it's possible.
Yeah.
I mean, Atlanta owns...
We're in Atlanta Cobb right now.
Exactly. There's
Yeah.
a land that Atlanta owns down in Savannah towards Brunswick. I mean, cities can own land in other places. It's just...
They're people too.
Mhm.
Okay,
Right.
very good.
Exactly.
All right.
According to certain rulings, yes.
Yeah.
So does DeKalb not want it there, and Atlanta does, or Atlanta doesn't want it there, or they both want it there, or
I try
the
to...
people don't? I mean, what's going on? Like,
Well-
give us the inside scoop.
As far as DeKalb goes, I try to stay in my lane. I don't really have much to do with DeKalb other
Okay.
than live in DeKalb. I'm on the DeKalb side of Atlanta. My guess is that they're for it if they're sending their police force in to help in the raid.
Okay.
The problem is the people that live closest, which happens to be one of the poorest communities in the Atlanta area, metro area, that is, they have no voice in this. Atlanta's just basically like, sorry, but this is our land.
So what's their opposition? I mean, don't we want better trained police officers, better trained firefighters? I mean, why don't we want to have a training facility right there to serve the, you're saying the poorest area of the city or the county?
Well, they wouldn't directly serve. That's an Atlanta training facility,
Okay.
so they wouldn't be served. The other issue is, and I want to make this clear.
Hang on. The people that live there.
Yeah, around
Okay.
surrounding
So
area.
what you're saying is that the police that would be training there, like, those police aren't necessarily going to actually be providing service for the people who live there.
Correct.
Got it. Okay.
Now,
It's
Atlanta.
like Gypstick, basically.
Right.
Everybody comes from the whole state and gets trained at one
Exactly.
facility.
Well,
Okay.
Atlanta has said that they would be open to, at one point, they said they would be open to letting other police organizations train there as well. It's supposed to be state of the art, blah, blah, blah. And let me be clear about this. I am not anti-police. I am not anti-fire. I'm not defund the police. I'm not any of that. I actually enjoy our APD. I see them all the time. I work with them in my neighborhood association. I think they're great. My concern personally, and I'm only going to speak to my issue with it because there are plenty of others. There's ecological. There's people that want to just defund the police. There's the militarization of the police. My issue is how the city has gone about it, how they've been secretive about it, and how they have lied at almost every cornerstone.
Are you telling me the government is
not telling you the whole
and
thing?
lies about things on occasion?
Surely.
This-
surely
not possible.
This
Well-
is really weird because I know that I've
very
never
strange.
known. Yeah.
Yeah, because we've never seen that
Right.
here in Cobb County. Like anyways.
Yeah. No, I mean, we're looking
Now,
at a lie across
you
the
were-
street, right?
Now, you were telling me something earlier I wanted to ask you about. You actually are going to talk to, or have gone to talk to your own people who live in your own community, right? And like, do you get a sense from them whether they, support this or not?
Yeah, I mean, most of the people I've talked to in my community.
Don't name names.
No,
I mean,
no,
just
of course
like a
not. No,
general
no,
idea,
no.
Right.
I would never. Yeah. No, I would never name names, but everyone I've talked to, for the most part, is against it in my area.
Right.
I mean, there are a handful of people I've spoken to that are for it, and people have their reasons, and I get that. But
What kinds of reasons are there?
for or against,
The people in your community that are against it.
a lot of the people are on board with me as far as being lied to and kind of like a shadowy government type issue. Where
We're not
you have-
happy with the lack of transparency.
Right. Atlanta
Okay.
Police Foundation is not a government entity. They're not subject
How
to
are they
open
involved in
records.
this?
Oh, well, they're the ones who are working with the city behind closed doors to name the sites.
Okay,
They were
gotcha.
also putting in funding. So they have a lot to do with it. But we can't get any information from them. They're not subject to open records requests because they're a private organization. If you put in one,
Okay.
they will tell you to go to City of Atlanta. City of Atlanta will tell you, well, we're not going to give you their information. So,
All right, so we've covered that. We went kind of off the beaten track a little bit. And now I want to circle back around to actually get to the headline that's in the news, and that is the headline is from the Daily Report: Petition drive to stop Cop City, their words, is futile. Atlanta attorneys argue. So apparently there is a petition going on now, or there are people who are gathering signatures for a petition to force a referendum. Like, do you know anything about what's going on there?
yes. We
So what would a referendum do? First of all, just for
Fair,
Yeah.
fair. Referendum would basically put this to a vote in November, put it on the ballot, yay
Okay.
or nay.
Oh, hold on. Hang on. How would the community vote on that if it's already been decided?
It's been decided by elected officials. It's not been decided by the people.
So there was
we were
never a
asking,
vote.
right? Exactly.
Well,
there
there
was a
was
vote in council.
okay.
Okay.
But there was never
All
a
right,
vote
so-
by the people.
Okay, so there was this. So what happened in 2021?
2021. I
was
actually worked at city council when that
the
was
city
going on.
council actually voted to enact an ordinance that said we're doing this, right? And so the referendum that they're trying to do is trying to overturn what has already been done by the elected officials.
Correct.
Got it.
And
Okay.
I want to also point out that a lot of the people that voted for that were voted out.
Oh.
Yeah.
So if you okay.
Yeah, if you look at the election, there was a massive turnover of council members that had been there forever. One stepped down. She voted against. My council member that I worked for, she lost her election to become city council president, which I think she would have done an excellent job. Shout out to Natalie Archibong.
Archibong?
Archibong.
Archibong. Okay,
Yes.
gotcha.
And I believe that the person who actually wrote the legislation, which was Joyce Shepard, if I'm not mistaken, was voted out as well. So there was an outcry.
Okay.
So what you're saying, let me recap.
Mhm.
So what you're saying is 2021, the city council enacted this ordinance that says, okay, we're going to use this to build the police training ground.
Mhm.
And then basically most of those council members that enacted that ordinance, that set that up, got voted out later.
Not most of them. Some of them.
Some of
Yes.
them. Okay.
And
So that does kind of tend to indicate something, that maybe there was a disagreement with it, or it could be disagreement about any other thing, but there's an inference to be made there. Okay.
Yes. And the ordinance that you're referring to, in it stated that there would be a one-time payment of $30 million or $36 million over 30 years.
And that was written into the ordinance
That
itself.
was written into the ordinance.
Ah.
That sounds cheap for a facility that big.
Well, guess what? The price tag went up.
Ah,
Yeah.
okay.
And that's the transparency thing that your
Yes.
people have concerns with.
Correct.
Well-
I did have the mayor come to our neighborhood meeting and it took about 2 months to set up, come to our community meeting that I run, and answer questions. And during that meeting, it was in May, the weekend before Memorial Day. And he stated that there would be no more than 31 million spent, right? So it had already gone up a million.
That's consistent with the ordinance.
No, because he had already gone up a million.
All right, hang on.
Right.
Wait, time out. Now, Dwayne, you've been involved in city politics before. Like, how is that possible? If you have to enact an ordinance to spend specific money for something, right, can the mayor just decide, okay, we're going to spend more money?
Let me correct that. There was a vote.
Oh, there was a vote.
There was a vote that raised the million, but the way that they raised it was they said that it's from some impact fund for the extra million, right? So to me, I'm like, okay, but you're saying, no, we only spent 30 million and we're adding 1 million from an impact fund. Well, that's still city money.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, that's still taxpayer dollars.
But isn't this a little bit of like buyer's remorse? I mean, you elected these officials to go in here and vote, to have your best interests at heart. They went and voted. Now the people are like, we hate what you voted for. We want you out. We want you gone. And now we want to do a referendum to make what you did legally gone, right?
Yeah, essentially, yeah.
Okay.
But at the same time...
But that's why we have referendums.
Sure.
Right? Like some of the people are like, whoa. We didn't sign up for this, right? So,
but the council went back and voted again.
All right, so then the news item is that the Atlanta attorneys argue that this petition is futile. I don't know what, like they're actually arguing this in court.
Of course.
About in U.S. District Court about like there's a request for an injunction, super complicated, but they have to get how many signatures in order to force the referendum?
70,000.
70,000. That seems like a lot.
There's even more though. It's not just 70,000 signatures. You have to be a resident of the city of Atlanta, and you had to have participated in the last municipal election.
So the city of Atlanta voters are signing it and not DeKalb County, even though it's around.
They're not allowed. They're trying to get onto it, but they won't allow them.
That's what that lawsuit is about.
Very interesting.
Got it.
Yeah.
All right.
So
now I'm getting
neighbors that it affects the most, which is our unincorporated neighbors.
You don't get a vote because it doesn't belong to your county or city.
I would kind of be mad too if they were putting a firing range in near my home.
Right.
Can we pause there for just a second? Okay. If I'm a business and I'm in, say, Cherokee County, right? And I want to put like a firing range in my business, I would have to ask the Cherokee County Commission for like a variance or something, right? Like, I mean, I'd have to get permission to do something like that.
Right.
Like, why doesn't the city of Atlanta have to get permission from DeKalb County to put something like that in there? Or do we know?
That's the issue.
Everybody,
like I said, I don't want to speak.
I
don't want to speak to what DeKalb County has voted on or said because, to be honest with you, I generally just deal with the city. I mean, I'm sure it's out there; it's public record, but
sure.
I have my hands full in my own neighborhood, so I'm just with DeKalb. I know that the neighbors affected. I mean, the mayor has gone as far as to say that he's gone out and talked to those neighbors, and they've said to his face they support it. But my argument to that is if that's true, what person's going to say to the mayor of Atlanta?
No, get your stupid stuff out of here.
Get out of here.
Get off my lawn.
This is, a lot of people have probably never met an elected official in these areas, and it's exciting, and you don't want to offend.
Right. But there's all the kinds of things that go into positioning it. Like, I always am somewhat skeptical of any kind of thing that purports to be a survey because, the survey questions are like, do you want safety in your community?
Right. Yeah.
Do you want police officers shooting at children walking by?
Right. Exactly. Like it's all in how you phrase the question. Right. Exactly.
Well, yeah, and I was talking about this earlier, and let's be clear: police are not crime preventers. They show up to the crime. Right. Crime prevention begins by investing in your community, and yes, you do have to invest in your police force, but militarizing the police, which is a whole other issue that is bugging to me because I feel like one leads into the other, right? You had this open carry law, which makes it easier for people to carry guns anywhere they want. You give people more access to these weapons without any kind of background checks and all that, and give police less rights to talk to them about why they're carrying a gun down the road. Then you say, well, there's more violent crime, so we need to up the ante and get the police more equipment.
Good Lord. You just opened up 5 whole podcast subject matters.
We need more Bearcats and
I'll be back next week for
Dwayne and I are sitting here listening like, Oh, we got to talk about that. Oh, we got to talk about that. That's a whole nother
Well, yeah.
episode. Yeah.
But I mean,
Yeah.
the thing is, I mean, it just stacks up upon itself. I mean, the common sense thing is to make laws and legislation and invest in your communities and make laws that make your community safer, and then have police there to respond to people who do not tend to follow the social norms, right? Or laws, as it were.
And it's hard for people to understand that, when your neighbor is suffering and your neighbor is hungry and your neighbor is, having other issues that they're dealing with, that doesn't make you safer. Like, you need to address the community as a whole if we want to be a safer place. Yeah. And that starts with education. It starts with, making sure that there's food and shelter and medicine and all those things.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if I have a family and I'm starving and my kids are starving and I'm down to desperation, I may turn to alternatives to feed them. Because it's about survival at that point.
Right. You might also just work harder.
Yeah, I mean, don't give me a bootstrap conversation. No.
I love you guys, but like there are certain people in communities that are intent on doing bad things.
No, I agree.
Right, like I love you guys both, but like to overlook that, there are people who are bent on destruction.
No, I agree.
Right? And
I mean,
the question is, what do you do about those people?
Well, there's also the person though that gets very upset about getting pulled over for a speeding ticket. Yeah. Because that means making rent, and that means paying for food, and that means that they're going to have to go and sit in jail because they violate their probation because they can't come up with $250.
You're violating hitting the desk.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Look at that.
Look at that. I think you just went over his property line.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
Sorry. No, I'm kidding.
So where do you think? Okay, let's go back to the news item.
Okay.
Right,
yeah. Sorry, we keep going. I know. I have ADHD, so I guess I've already told you that. I can tell you my name instead of KF. I'm Kevin Friend, by the way.
Our friend. Yeah.
We're trying to protect you.
Thank you. Anyways, so where do you think this all is gonna go? It just seems to me like, okay, here's my impression. You need 70,000 signatures just to force a referendum, and then you've got to get I don't know what percentage to overturn an ordinance. Just seems like, that's just not going to happen. And practically speaking, like, is this thing just going to keep going?
I mean, everywhere I go, people are trying to collect signatures, which is great. And I have two scenarios in my head. There's the realistic one and the hopeful one. And the realistic one is this is going to happen. It's one of those things where
you mean that it's going to get built and it's going to go.
It's been one of those things. The city has given us any task that we could go about getting any kind of remedy. And as you can see here, they're sending their attorneys to fight even the people having a voice, which to me is an issue. We live in a democracy. If it's truly wanted, and by the way, the mayor has been quoted as saying many times, there's a silent majority that wants this to be built. Well, then let the people say that. Why is the issue? Why are you fighting this in court? Are you scared that the people don't? Put it on a ballot.
Let everybody vote.
Let them vote.
Let it fall where it falls.
Well,
Now the issue. Let's take this last part up, and that does bring up. You said this is a democracy, and that's true, but I think the issue that's being taken up by the court is, well, what kind of person do you have to be in order to sign the petition? And what there's an injunction or a request for an injunction filed by the plaintiffs in federal district court that says, hey, listen, this ordinance that says you have to be a resident of the city of Atlanta and blah blah and blah 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 in order to even sign the petition for it to be a valid signature, that's not even constitutional. We want the court to strike that down.
Well,
that's what they're
fighting. Just so you know, the city clerk shot down this referendum first, and then there was public outcry, and 2 weeks later they said, oh, it was just a clerical error. We got it fixed, and now there's a referendum, which could be true. I'm speculating.
Like the clerk wouldn't even file it?
Yeah, the clerk was like, we're not going to file it.
Oh, they drive me crazy.
What filing? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, exactly. So
if I give you a ham sandwich, you file it.
I want to give a shout out. I want to give a quick shout out to Riley Bunch, who works with the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. I've worked with her. I fed her information sometimes, and she has been very good about reporting on this and keeping straight to the facts. I highly recommend every Tuesday. She has a article that comes out that has to do with the city, and she writes about what's happening at City Hall. She's a great journalist, and I have been working closely with her, and she has helped me get a lot of this news out.
Very good. All right, well, that's the news.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for coming in.
I appreciate you having me.
We've really, I still feel like we've only barely touched the surface of this really big really big story. We'll see what happens.
I'm just glad we already got our training facility south of Atlanta. We don't have to worry about all this.
See, you guys ahead of your time.
Ahead of your time.
Ahead of your
All right.
time.
Thanks for joining. Make sure that you like our episode. Make sure that you subscribe. I think we have
Question and comment below. We'll answer them.
we have more than dozens of subscribers now. I think
Dozens.
we're in the hundreds.
Are you kidding
Nice.
me?
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah,
Hundreds.
very good.
I don't even know that many people.
Thanks for joining the show.
Thanks for listening. Tune in next time when Bob and Irreverent D talk law.